All right, welcome to another edition of my YouTube as I dip my toe into this. Be sure to read all my stuff at NBC Sports Bay Area. Check in there. Also, the 49ers Talk podcast with me and Jennifer Lee Chan. Okay, so Wednesday at the 49ers practice facility in Santa Clara, really an inflection point because uh, I think the Bay Area awakened to a report nationally that Brandon Aiyuk was expected to practice on Wednesday. The cuts to 53 players, those were all on Tuesday. And so this was the first time that the 49ers regular season roster, as well as practice squad, would be out on the field on Wednesday in Santa Clara as the 49ers really start to ramp up preparations to face the New York Jets week one. So up to this point, I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch publicly haven't really said a whole lot. You couldn't necessarily detect a lot of emotion coming off that national report that Brandon Aiyuk was expected to practice. I asked Kyle Shanahan about that, if Brandon had talked to him and told him he was going to practice, and he said no. So right away, you kind of got the sense that maybe this wasn't going to happen. And both Shanahan and Lynch were asked separately if Brandon Aiyuk wasn't out there at Wednesday's practice. Does that mean that the 49ers would really start to consider discipline, conduct detrimental to the team, etc. And they both kind of said, hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. They weren't going to deal with hypotheticals. Well, now we're past the point of hypotheticals. And you really get the sense, as John Lynch said, at some point you got to play. You get the sense that the 49ers really believe that the ball is in Brandon Aiyuk's court. They believe that he has had enough information to make a decision, either to accept the terms of a contract that from a team that the 49ers have agreed to a trade with, or accept the terms of the deal that the 49ers have placed in front of them. So here we are. Brandon Aiyuk still not out there. And where it goes from here, it feels like it's starting to get, or maybe it really got on Wednesday a little bit more acrimonious. But Kyle Shanahan said, or actually John Lynch, who said that he's seen more dire circumstances as far as relationship between player and team. He's seen more dire relationships get mended in the past. So he believes that if they can somehow work this out and get Brandon Aiyuk with a contract that he accepts and that he is satisfied with, that the sides can move on. But what it looks like, I have no idea, because at this point, I think really everything is on the table, whether that's a trade, whether that's the 49ers signing Aiyuk to a long-term extension, or somehow Aiyuk remaining with the 49ers just on a deal that kind of finishes this season, and then the sides get together at the end of the year and maybe send Brandon Aiyuk to a place that he wants to go. So who knows where it goes from here, but it's clear, as Shanahan said, that he has to start preparing, or has been preparing, to face the New York Jets without Brandon Aiyuk on the team. So what does that look like on Monday night? Deebo Samuel, who has had a really good training camp, obviously the number one. Juwan Jennings has been battling an oblique injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Ricky Pearsall still wearing the blue no contact jersey. He has that shoulder situation. And then the fourth guy is Chris Conley, who might actually go up a few pegs in the 49ers rotation at wide receiver. He had a really good camp. He makes the team, the 53-man coming out of training camp. Also, the other receivers on the team would be Jacob Cowing, the rookie, who's going to be the punt returner with Trent Taylor on the practice squad, and also Ronnie Bell. Okay, so that's the situation at wide receiver. At left tackle, it becomes, I was going to say, less complicated. It is less complicated because if it's not Trent Williams, it's Jalen Moore. It doesn't mean it's a better situation than wide receiver. It just means you know who it's going to be. And I think that anybody would tell you that the guy that the 49ers would probably feel the impact of losing more would be Trent Williams. You're talking about replacing an all-pro, a guy who basically is thought of universally as the best left tackle in the game, and you'd be putting somebody in there who hasn't seen a lot of action to protect the blind side of Brock Purdy in Jalen Moore. Fourth-year pro, hasn't had too many starts in his career. So that's where we're at right now. No Brandon Aiyuk on the practice field, although the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said they did see him at the facility on Wednesday. And then Trent Williams training somewhere else, still hasn't come to terms with the 49ers on that contract. His fine money is really increasing. I think it's now up to $4.6 million when he was scheduled to make $20 million in base salary this year. So that's where we had a couple roster moves. The 49ers, they cut some veteran guys on Tuesday. They bring them back on Wednesday. So Eric Saubert, who looks to be the number 2 tight end behind George Kittle, basically just a maneuver, not allowing or not putting a veteran guy on the active roster initially. It just kind of frees the team up a little bit. It means that they don't have to guarantee the veteran salary through the entire season. So Eric Saubert is back. Ben Barch, offensive lineman, is back. And Rock Yassin, cornerback, is back with the 49ers. 3 notable guys who were plucked off the 49ers. I'm going to say plucked off their practice squad because they would have been on the practice squad had they cleared waivers. Rookies, Cody Schrader, running back from Missouri. He's claimed by the Rams. There was Jarrett Kingston, the only 49ers rookie draft pick who did not make the 53-man. He gets claimed by the Carolina Panthers. 49ers probably should have kept him, but maybe, I don't know if they miscalculated or they just thought that they had other guys that they could put in there, such as Ben Barch. And then the third guy who was claimed off waivers was Samuel Womack. Darrell Luter basically got that last job at cornerback. Womack goes on waivers, and the Indianapolis Colts claim him. So that's where we are right now as far as where things stand, which, quite frankly, it's been about the same answer every time we've talked about Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams from the beginning of training camp to this point. So we'll continue to update you as news warrants at NBC Sports Bay Area. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of whatever I call it, me on YouTube.